Hi, and welcome to a new season of Who's Who at FSU. I'm your host, Terry Doyle from the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning. And today, we're going to have a discussion about two exciting activities that are taking place on campus that are kind of tied to our election. One is the Rock the Vote. We have two young men here from Ferris students that are going to talk about that, and Dr. William Potter, who is heavily involved in the American Democracy Project. So that's our topic. Let's start with having our guests introduce themselves. Bill?
Thank you, Terry. I'm Bill Potter. I'm Dean of University College, but I'm also the administrative liaison for the political engagement and American democracy projects here on campus.
And I'm Matt Valou. I'm third year here. I'm in the public relations program, and I work at the Office of Student Leadership and Activities, co-coordinating the Ferris State Rock the Vote campaign.
Okay, Matt?
My name is Adam Quigley. I'm a junior here at Ferris State, a pre-law student. I also work in the Office of Student Leadership and Activities, and I am Matt's co-chair for the Rock the Vote campaign this year.
Well, welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Bill, we're going to start with you. If you could just give us some background on how the American Democracy Project came into being and how Ferris got involved in that. Could we start there?
Be glad to. About 5 years ago, after President Eisler arrived, he had connections with the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, and they were trying to get all of their members to become participatory in this American Democracy Project and encourage students to register to vote and to actually vote.
Okay.
So we formed an advisory committee and began to sponsor events during Constitution Week and during President's Week that would remind students about the importance of registering to vote and actually voting and about what their constitutional rights were. That has blossomed during the last 3 years to include the Political Engagement Project, which is a more systemic effort to involve faculty and students in becoming politically engaged. Not just aware, not just registered to vote, but to become interested and involved in the politics that affect them either as private citizens or in their chosen professions. So that we now have approximately, this semester, 45 different faculty teaching about 50 different courses that include a political engagement component. It could be anything from inviting guest speakers from Lansing or from other governmental branches in to address a class, to taking students on field trips to Lansing to observe legislation in process, or to meet with the bureaucracy that's involved in their respective career areas. We also sponsor a fairly large number of events, or co-sponsor those events here on campus, that allow students, whether they're in those classes or simply enrolled at Ferris, to become better apprised of what's going on in their political world.
Fantastic. Now that's been on campus for almost 5 years, is that right?
American Democracy for about 5 years, and political engagement is in its third year.
Okay. Could you just give us a couple examples of the kinds of activities that you've held here on campus that have gotten students involved in the Democracy Project?
Two of my favorite: we do an election fair every year so that representative groups can set up tables in a common area that students may stop at and find out about different issues. So, for example, this year we will, in October, about 2 weeks before, exactly 2 weeks before the election, have that fair in the IRC corridor, so that students can find out about the two ballot initiatives in Michigan, meet with representatives from the various political parties about their candidates and about their platforms, and also listen to debates held by various speech classes. That'll be, I think, in IRC 120. During the 11 o'clock hour.
Exciting. That'll be great.
On election night every year, we have sponsored an election watch in Westview Dining Commons, where a political engagement project picks up the tab for pizza and beverages and cookies, and students and faculty and staff can come to one central place and watch the returns on the big screen TVs that they have in that facility.
Excellent.
And it's really a pretty amazing event. We get a great turnout, and this year, of course, because it's a presidential election, we expect an immense turnout.
Terrific. Matt, tell us a little bit about what Rock the Vote is, and I know many in our audience have heard that term before, maybe associated with MTV, but what is Rock the Vote, and what's your involvement with it here at Ferris?
Well, Rock the Vote obviously is a national campaign, nonpartisan, just pretty much the goal is to get young voters out registered and then get them to vote. It's been around since the early 90s. That's when it hit big with the MTV culture. And how Ferris is getting involved is just doing the grassroots campaign, getting out, letting people know about the election, getting people registered to vote. And then once the registration deadline passes, then our next goal is to get people ready to vote. So we do a lot with it. We've had a couple big projects so far.
Great. Adam, tell us how you got involved in this.
Actually, the idea was pitched to me by our office manager in student leadership and activities, Demetrius Wallace. Working over the summer, he came in one day and just he asked what I thought of the Rock the Vote project. He had secured the rights for us to use their logo. Matt and I were the 2 employees there, and asked us how we'd like to work on the project. I said, it sounds great. Sounds like something I'd be interested in getting involved with, and we just took it from there and ran with it.
Okay. Now, have both of you been politically active in your time at Ferris, or is this a new venture for you?
I'd say this is a new venture for me at Ferris. In high school with the 2004 election, I was active in Traverse City and around the area there, so it's not completely new territory for me to be politically active. But as we got to this presidential election, I knew that I wanted to become engaged and have my part in helping people know about the election. So.
Yeah. How about you, Adam?
Same story. My first voting experience was the 2006 midterm elections. Since I've been here on campus, not too much directly politically involved, just kind of deciding where I fell on the political spectrum, what my beliefs and values were, and trying to incorporate those into my daily life as a student.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of for all 3 of you, but what sense are you getting about the level of excitement or interest or engagement about the current election season? Maybe, Bill, you could start.
We noticed that our attendance at the events that we sponsor or co-sponsor is up pretty significantly from what it had been in the 2 prior years. As to whether more students are registered to vote, we can't tell. It's almost impossible to measure because it's a moving target.
Right.
We have students graduate, we have new students come in, and so you really are almost chasing your own tail in that respect. But it's something that we continue to do because we think it's important for the new students to be aware of what their prerogatives are. In the classroom, we certainly have made some great strides. The first year that we sponsored faculty activities in these variety of courses, all colleges except optometry are represented. 25 different departments are represented.
Wow.
By political engagement project courses. And like I said, we're now up to approximately 50 courses this semester. The first year, I think we had 25 or 26. So we've almost doubled the number of courses. That doesn't count course sections,
right,
which would be maybe another 15 or 20
That's
groups of
terrific.
students.
Yeah.
About 1,500 students, we think, this fall are enrolled in political engagement courses.
Wow. How about you guys?
I think it's definitely showing that students are excited about the election, be it they support Obama or McCain or any of the other candidates. We're seeing a lot of T-shirts, a lot of buttons, pins, everything is already out on the streets and people are showing their support. And I think it's been really positive. I haven't heard a lot of battling between the sides as of yet, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of interest being taken in this election. It's pretty historic. It's a very exciting time for these new voters that are just now hitting the age where they can vote in their first elections.
Right.
It's a very exciting time, and people are eager to get out and find where they stand and which candidate they would support. And they're just really eager to take part in the voting process and making sure that they are able to vote by registering and doing what they need to do to make sure that they're ready to vote come November.
Okay, well, speaking of registering to vote, I want to give both of you a chance to talk to the audience that's going to watch this show, especially students. What do they need to do? What are the cutoff dates? What if they are registered at home? Will you talk about all of those things in terms of how we can help people get registered and to vote?
Mm-hmm. Most importantly, the deadline to register to vote is October 6th. So we still have just under a couple weeks left for that. So there are a lot of different options to get registered to vote. You can do it online, and you can print off the forms to send in, or any of the activities going on campus through the Democracy Project or Political Engagement Project. We have people there with the voter registration forms.
Right. There's also the absentee process can be kind of complicated or muddled. A lot of new students are unaware of how that process works, and they have a lot of questions about that, and it's not always a cut and dry what's best for which student. So it's really, we're willing to provide the answers, but sometimes our answers will be to a general audience and not specifically tailored to each specific student. So we like to help as much as we can, but it's also partly the student's responsibility to find out their best option, what that's going to be to cast their vote.
Okay. And then for students that you've registered here in Big Rapids, where will they go and vote on Election Day?
If they register using their Ferris address, then the closest poll is the public library in Big Rapids, which is just a couple blocks north.
Okay.
But if they register using their home address, they'll have to either get an absentee ballot from their county clerk or be at home on Election Day. And then one thing a lot of students don't know is that the Saturday before elections, you can actually go to the county clerk in your hometown, get an absentee ballot, and cast your vote that day. So
Right, the same day?
yeah, so it gives you an option to even vote before actual Election Day.
Okay. And then can I do that by mail? If I'm a student here and I registered back in my hometown, can I just send to the county clerk that I want a ballot sent to me and just do it all by mail, or do I have to go in person?
You can send in a absentee ballot request form to the county clerk from school.
Okay. So there's really no reason, nothing preventing any student who really wants to vote from being able to do that?
No.
Okay. All right. And Bill, for the Democracy Project and the political engagement, what kinds of things have, because I know what Adam and Matt are talking about, what kinds of things have this project been trying to do along the same lines of getting students registered and getting the vote out?
Well, certainly the faculty that are involved and the steering committee. The steering committee, I should mention, include Professor Rick Griffin, Tony Baker, Wendy Samuels, and Denise Mitten. We are working to have the faculty make sure that the students enrolled in those PEP classes are cognizant of the deadlines and the procedures to register to vote and what the procedures are going to be. And in fact, we will have a notice come out on a campus-wide notice and on some handouts that we'll distribute to reinforce what we've learned from the Secretary of State's office regarding the rules and regulations within the next few days. And that should help clarify things for students about whether or not they have to show up in person or can mail it in. And it really does depend on all of their individual circumstances, like was mentioned a minute ago. Certainly all of the events that we're sponsoring, and this fall the schedule is rich. I've been busy just about every night with some political engagement event or another. Competing with this program tonight will be the speech by Sister Helen Prejean, sponsored by the Social Work Department, but co-sponsored by PEP. So I think I need to be in two places at one time on some evenings. The debate last night, which was a wonderful activity, co-sponsored by a number of organizations that drew, I think, between 300 and 400 students. I think that'd be pretty close to what the audience was. And it was an excellent event, student run, very well done, and they deserve all the credit in the world. We will have the election fair, we will have the election watch, we will have a post-mortem a week or two after the election to review the results and have a discussion of that by faculty who have been observing, so that students, faculty, and staff will have a chance to hear what some of the experts think.
Okay. Now, in terms of your Rock the Vote affiliation, what strategies do you have in mind to get them to actually go vote? I mean, registering is one thing, but what's part of the strategy here to actually get the students to go actually cast their vote?
It's just a matter of advertising, really just make sure they know what they have to do, when they have to do it, and just don't let them forget it. I mean, people might get sick of all the information they're seeing and reminders, go vote, do this by this day, but that's our plan, really, just as much information out there as possible and reminders.
Right. And when you said the cutoff to register is October 6th, does that also mean you must be 18 by that date in order to register? Because I know for some of our entering freshmen, this is the first time they're going to be able to vote. And so is that also tied directly to their age, or is that something we're not quite sure?
Well, I remember when it was my turn to register to vote. It was a very simple process. Most of our students have a vehicle and will drive. And when I was at the Secretary of State's office renewing my registration and my license, it's a simple, quick process. Check a box, you register to vote. So it makes it very convenient to do it that way. I found that was the easiest way. My birthday was in early September, so you're well within the deadline. So it makes it easier to do that when you fill out your vehicle registration renewal forms. You can register to vote at the same time.
Okay. And you were at the debate last night, right? Can you just give us a little recap as to what you thought and what kinds of issues were raised and the kinds of things that maybe tell the audience who was there and because I believe it was the chairman of each major party, right, in Michigan?
Saul Anusis, the chairman of the Michigan Republican Party, and Mark Brewer, the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party, were there. The event was student-run. A lot of organizations collaborated. It was very well done. The questions were predetermined by the two moderators who happen to be the chair of the student chapters of the Republican and Democratic parties.
Okay.
They moderated the event and kind of pre-selected some questions. The same question was posed to each chairman. They were given a few minutes to respond, and there were some rebuttals. And it was, all in all, it was a very well event. Allowed me to see more of the inner workings of what each party really does stand for. There were some great points brought up by both chairmen. And the students there, I think, definitely gained and allowed them to see where they would fall on their political spectrum, which side they believe in, and which candidate they'd like to support. So definitely a great showing what can happen when a lot of different organizations collaborate, and just all in all, a very well done event.
Great, great. Okay, let's turn a little bit more just to the whole idea of civic engagement and awareness. And Bill, can you just give us a little more development in terms of the project beyond just getting students to vote? What other things are we looking for in terms of really altering a student's view of their responsibilities to be more civically engaged and to be more responsible for their community and these areas?
Well, at Ferris, there are 8 schools involved in the political engagement project throughout the country. We were all invited to participate by the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, and the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, and the New York Times. So we're in a pretty select group. Our path has been to show that politics doesn't stop at the political science classroom door or at the speech communication classroom door. We think that politics is integral to every discipline that is taught here at the university. And so we have a construction management professor who teaches contracts, and he ties construction contracts and that theory to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to show students how the contractual law in business relates to making buildings happen.
Right,
okay.
right.
We have Professor Denise Mitten, who teaches rock climbing.
Right.
And she classified that as a political engagement course in order to show the students in that class what was happening politically in Grand Ledge. With the park down there, that there was a debate about how it was to be used and how it was to be allowed to be accessed by rock climbers.
Interesting.
All politics.
Yeah.
We have a number of education classes where the students who want to be teachers are learning how much politics are involved in the decisions related to public schools, funding, and administration. And they do quite a little bit of field trip activity in order to see school board meetings or to see what's actually happening in different schools insofar as education is concerned. Other interesting courses, I have a reading professor in my college who is using her class as a political engagement course in order to introduce students to a variety of issues that they will read about in that course that affect everyday life, like the food chain. Judith Hooper does a nice job on that. So as you can see, there's no discipline is exempt from consideration here, and by having the activities embedded in the course, it makes it so that maybe every time that course is taught, the political engagement aspects will continue, whether the political engagement project is still viable or not. In the meantime, though, we do provide some supplemental funding to those instructors so that they can afford to bring in speakers or take the students out on field trips or purchase supplies that might help the students understand how the politics affect the discipline that they're in.
Wow, that's terrific education. Matt and Adam, If you were to deliver a message to your peers, the other students here at Ferris, about getting involved, about being more civic-minded, about being more politically aware, what would you like to say to them? I mean, how do we get students to get a little more fired up about, the responsibilities that they need to take, not only to vote, which is a huge responsibility, but also to be more civic-minded, to be more engaged, to take more involvement. I mean, Adam, you used those words that I wanted to be involved, I wanted to be engaged. What do you think we can say out there?
Well, I think I can say for both of us that we're both very involved, and it's a very positive experience for me. The engagement and the things I've been able to do through my other campus involvements has been amazing. So I think my hope would be that as students get out and go to these events through the Democracy Project and political engagement and things they see with Rock the Vote, all these different organizations doing things, that they see how positive of a thing this engagement can be, and as they get excited about this election and get excited about voting, that then they are able to take the next step and realize that they can do the behind-the-scenes work too, and really it makes it a much more enjoyable process.
Okay. Adam, how about you? What message would you send out there to the students?
Well, I think it's very important to get involved not only in politics, but just in general. The decisions that are made today are ultimately going to affect us the most. We are the youngest generation. So students need to be aware that things that happen now are ultimately going to impact us more heavily than they will the older generations. So wherever they lie on a specific issue, for me specifically, I'm sure Matt will feel the same way, it's not where you lie on that issue, it's how dedicated you are and what your reasonings are for that, and that you strive and you push for that, and you ultimately reach your own goals for what you feel is the right way to go on an issue.
Okay, good. Can we just, for the sake of our audience out there, ask you where your political leanings are this fall? What's your...
I am still on the fence. I've historically voted more on the conservative side, but I'm excited for the debate series to start on Friday to see where I end up leaning.
What are the issues that are really paramount for you, center stage?
Well, with a lot of current events that have been going on lately, I am worried about what their goals are with the economy, for one, as for the fact that in the next few years I'll be entering the workforce, and I want to know what it's going to look like for me. And also, I think that it's important that they care about our region as a whole, because I think there's a lot going on in Michigan that could be affected by the different policies. So my goal is to see what their policies will do to affect the status of Michigan.
Very good. Adam?
Well, actually, I'm the newly appointed treasurer for our college Republicans here at Ferris. Traditionally, I have also leaned more towards the conservative end of the spectrum. I do consider myself to be a moderate conservative. I'm very open-minded about a lot of issues. Often I see both sides to an issue, and I respect that other people have their beliefs because they hold those for the same reasons I hold mine. They're passionate about them, they're dedicated. So to me, it's not really where you lie. It's just that you're involved and you make sure that people know that you are involved and that you do care about these issues.
Yeah. What are the big issues for you this fall in the election?
Well, the big issue for me is, obviously the economy is never far from anyone's mind. I do plan on being in school for the next quite a few years. So education is definitely a big one for me as well. I have a couple younger siblings that are still in the elementary system, so I'd like to see them grow up with the same opportunities that a lot of us have had. So definitely those two are definitely at the top of my list for issues.
Okay, very good. Well said. Dr. Potter, can you just tell us a little bit more about where the project is headed in the future? What do you see for Ferris's continued involvement? And is this an ongoing project, or is it something that comes to an end and then we pick up the ball and try to keep it rolling? Or
Yes, I can. It was started as a 3-year pilot program in collaboration with the 7 other universities, right, and the AASCU and okay, Carnegie and New York Times. The reception on campus by the faculty has been so tremendous that I think it's taken on a life of its own, and I would be surprised if when the 3-year pilot was done that it didn't continue. Our goal is to enhance awareness on campus and enhance engagement of students on campus without changing their political views.
Right.
Okay,
right,
that's an important
course.
caveat to
Sure.
mention because we don't try and have students see things one way or the other, just that they look and
right,
maybe become involved.
Right.
So I think that this will continue in some form, but we have about a year to figure that out.
Okay, very good. Well, I want to just turn to Adam and Matt up for a minute and wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about what you hope to do after you leave Ferris, because one of the goals of our show is not only to engage in these discussions, which has been a great discussion today about these issues, but also just to let everybody know what some of our outstanding students are doing and what they hope to do. And so if you kind of look into your own crystal ball there, Matt, what do you see happening for yourself?
Well, going into public relations, right now my goal is to end up working for a nonprofit organization, that aspect of public relations. I've done a lot, pretty much my whole high school career and thus far in college. I've worked closely with a lot of different NPOs, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Habitat for Humanity, Red Cross, all sorts of things, and I just really love that aspect and just putting myself out there and doing something for a cause much bigger than myself. So that is my eventual goal, is to be in nonprofit public relations.
Sounds great. Adam, how about yourself?
Well, obviously the eventual goal is to be as law school and eventually a career as a lawyer after that. I've been seriously considering doing the City Year program. I'm not sure if anybody's aware of that. It's a year of full-time community service. They place you in an urban area. You mentor elementary-age children. You get involved in community development projects. I feel that would be a great way to give back and just give more of myself before I make that plunge and go on with my future career. So that's definitely my crystal ball.
Are you seeing yourself in politics at all as the future goes on?
I don't see myself in politics. I'll definitely be involved in and be engaged in politics, but as having a direct role, I don't see myself that way.
Okay, so we won't be voting for you anytime soon?
Not likely.
Okay.
Not the Value Quickly ballot.
Dr. Potter, just for our audience, could you just tell us a little bit more about what you do for the university and how long you've been here and the role that you have outside of the political engagement project?
Well, as Dean of University College, I've been at Ferris now, this is my 10th year, and we provide essentially all of the academic support services for the university, including tutoring, counseling, disability services, mentoring, the first-year seminar program, and the honors program, to name a few, and I'm sure I left somebody out, and I'm sorry.
And they'll remind you of that,
sure,
I'm
yes,
sure, later.
I'll hear about it in the office, I'm sure. I also teach a class for students who are trying to get back on the right track, and I enjoy doing that. Every semester I'll have between 20 and 30 students that I can help along their way in the tradition of Woodbridge Ferris, which was to provide an opportunity for students to have this higher education experience.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so let's just recap so that everybody knows. The cutoff date for registering to vote is
October 6th.
October 6th.
And you must be 18 by November 5th.
Yes.
By November
the day
5th.
after the election,
Yep.
believe it or
You
not.
can register to vote. You can have your registration form in if you aren't quite 18, as long as you are by the day after the election.
True. That's very good information.
Yes.
And then for the students who have registered in their hometowns, they will need to go back to their hometown to vote, or they can get an absentee ballot.
Correct.
That is correct.
Yes.
And they can do that by mail if they want to.
Yes.
Okay. And that has to be back to the clerk by election day, so
Right.
that gets
the
counted.
closing of the polls on election day.
Closing of
yes.
the polls on election day. Okay. And then for the students who gave the address as Big Rapids to vote, all they have to do is walk a couple blocks down the street to the county, to our little library here in Big Rapids, and that's where they can cast their vote on election day.
Yes.
If
Okay.
they live on campus.
They
If
live on
there are
campus.
students that live in other parts of town, their polling place might be different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There are different locations.
And that information is something that Rock the Vote is going to try to help them. You'll have that information out to students so they know where to go and
Yes.
and
it will also be on their voter registration card.
Okay.
It gives you the best location to go to your poll.
okay, because we're talking about 10,000 votes right here on campus,
Hopefully.
right? That's a lot of votes to be concerned about. Well, it's been great having all of you here today. This has been a fantastic discussion. I really am appreciative of what you have done, both of you, your commitment to the university and your commitment to civic engagement. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Bill, I want to thank you for being here today. Obviously, this project is going very, very well, and we look forward to maybe having it beyond the 3 years that it was established for. So thank you for being here today, and this was Who's Who at FSU.